That is today's video. Well, this is today. That's the point of this video. What is the power of no? Do you have it? And do you wield it? And if not, why not? And if you want to, how can you do it? Well, the power of no is the ability to refuse a request, an inquiry, a demand, something that is asked of you when you should not say yes. How do you know when you should not say yes? How do you know when you should refuse a request and ask, even if it's asked of you very nicely, and you know that it may be aligned with some of your interests, possibly in the long term, or the medium term, or the short term? That's right, the short term. However, it does not meet your priorities, standards, and or requirements, and possibly you do not have the resources or the time available to accept the request, and the request itself may be beyond the scope of whatever agreement you have with the party that is asking, if you have any agreement at all. So, in order to refuse a request, first of all, you have to make sure that refusing the request is something you are able to do, technically, legally, and in every other way that might matter. It may be physical, hopefully not, but there are certain cases where it may be. For example, if you do a manual labor job, or if whatever is required of you is physical in nature. It may be that you have an agreement that specifies that you will do that particular request, and if the counterparty has lived up to its agreement with you to date, and you have no reason to refuse, then you should acquiesce and do the request, because it's something that you've agreed to and you've had your requirements satisfied. So there's no reason for you to object or to refuse or to just say no. If, on the other hand, you do not have an existing agreement, or the existing agreement has not been met by the counterparty that is making the request, you have multiple options. You can acquiesce and do it anyway if you believe that doing so on good faith is in your interest. If you believe that the counterparty will live up to its agreement in the short term, or whatever term you find acceptable. However, if you find that the request is out of bounds and you have no reason to acquiesce, then it may very well be in your interest to refuse. So how do you do it if you have the reason to refuse a request? Well, you simply say no. Now, you can word it in all kinds of ways, but generally speaking, in a professional relationship, brevity is wit, so you don't need to couch it in too much fancy, unless there's some political reason you feel that necessity. However, generally, people do tend to appreciate straightforward, direct language. Of course, You shouldn't be brutish about it. You should consider the other person's interests and sensitivities and explain to them clearly why it is that you cannot accept their request, why you cannot do what they ask, right? So instead of just saying the word no, which you can do, you can also just make it clear, I cannot do this because, sorry I can't do this, or sorry the answer is no because, and then state your reason clearly, and don't go on a long diatribe. Just stick to the most salient points, or preferably point 1, 2, or 3 points at most. And if there are more points, you can say, these are the main reasons, or these are the top 3 reasons. And if you want to discuss further about the other reasons, we can do that too. And if you have a long list, it might even just behoove you to give just one reason. Because, you'll say, look, this is the main reason that I cannot do this. Because, here's why. And then say very clearly, if you want to discuss the other reasons, we can certainly do that. And of course, they should be well aware of those reasons even before you say no. If for some reason they're not aware, you can tell them, look, here's a number of reasons I can't do this, and then just, write a summary of those reasons. Keep it brief, but make sure you put no at the beginning of that message, or put your refusal at the beginning of that message saying, I'm sorry I can't do this, and here's a list of reasons why, and then do that. But keep it brief as much as possible, and give them the opportunity to speak with you, and make it possible, if they're able to meet the requirements for the request. Don't just automatically cut them off and say, no, I won't, I refuse to do this, unless you have some reason, of course, to refuse them outright and refuse that request no matter what, even if they try to make it right. Of course, there are some cases where one party might have done something really wrong, beyond the pale, etc. And so it could be very well within your purview to actually say, no matter what. However, most of the time, in most cases, especially in business, it is reasonable to give people a way to climb down from the tree, so to speak, so that you don't just simply refuse people's requests without any opportunity to make things whole and to move forward. And one of the reasons that you want to keep that particular avenue open is because you never know when in the future your interests may align again with that party, even if it seems unbelievably impossible in the moment. There are no shortage of examples of people who have needed each other after they've had a disagreement. So keep it polite, keep it friendly as much as possible, keep a mutual understanding open and an open dialogue open, and be available for further discussions, unless you have some reason, again, to shut that off. Remember, humans are social creatures, so we need each other, and we can help each other even after difficult periods. All right, that said, happy marketing.